Still living?
Huh?
Is what's her name still living? Vivian?
No, yeah, Vivian, I expect, yes. And then, what was the sister?
What's this?
Herschel Rubin's sister. You know, the one who got 3 graduate degrees, and she came back on a student visa. And with Dad going,
I know,
Jeanette,
Jeanette.
with Dad going down to Washington all the time to try to find congressmen's staff members who could do something, you know. And she got two graduate degrees. I'm not sure really. And
Just so she wouldn't have to go back, huh?
And she lived with Leah down in Charleston. And then she met some yokel from one of these small western Pennsylvania towns who fell in love with her, and she married him. And wasn't honest with him that as soon as she could apply for a green card or whatever they were in those days, she was going to plant him. And my mother was so mad at her that for several years she didn't want to speak.
She taught in Gainesville.
Oh, a long time
She
ago.
taught in Gainesville.
Her daughter
Gainesville,
died.
Florida?
It must have been
Her
University of
daughter
Florida.
died too.
I
Wait, who taught in Gainesville?
Sarah, huh?
It would be Bo Rubin's sister? No, Raiden. She was a Raiden.
She was
Herschel
a
Rubin's
Raiden,
daughter.
Herschel Rubin.
Sister.
But meanwhile,
not
the
Herschel,
rest,
not daughter, sister.
sister.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the other 2 kids and the mother and father all disappeared in the Holocaust.
Yeah,
Ah.
we know
I think Herschel Rubin managed to track them down to a certain point,
Yeah.
and his wife's, you know, that to where they were taken into Russia or something, and that's as far as.
Like he doesn't know if they were
Yeah.
liberated or anything. Oh,
No,
God,
they
that's so
weren't
terrible.
liberated. I mean, they died.
It's so awful.
And then what happened to the original, the 4 older ones, I don't have any idea. My dad went to learn to be a watchmaker, to live with my oldest sister in Calvary. And I've never known what her name was. It was always my,
Oh, he didn't- I
my
know.
oldest sister.
He
in
just said my
Calvary.
oldest sister.
His older sister.
How funny.
You said your older sister.
No, I knew what you
His
meant.
older
I knew what you
sister.
meant. Huh.
He came
And-
over when he was 18.
Well, he came over under a load of hay into East Prussia to escape going in the army.
And within 12 years, he came over in 1898.
98.
And within 12 years, he had a store in Fairmont, West Virginia, a store in Blair, Ohio, and started
Yeah, I mean,
a
it's
store here.
amazing.
It
And
is
within
amazing.
and he didn't know the language before.
I mean, I've always had the utmost respect for him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
I mean, within 12 years.
That's a short time.
and then Nathan, who was a nice guy, he was the one who married Aunt Millie. Do you remember Aunt Millie? from
Nathan's
Beaver
a brother
Falls?
also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Nathan's
Nathan's a
wife,
brother?
it was just a year older than Dad. I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Nathan's wife and one of his kids died in the flu epidemic.
Oh.
And Herschel Rubin. My mother and I always knew who we were talking about by the way we said Herschel. There were 2 Herschel Rubins and a Herschel Rubin.
Huh.
Because my
I
father.
think
my-
that this would be Nathan.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
Which one?
and that's Fred.
That's Fritz, yeah.
Wait, which one's Nathan?
I think that one. Don't
Is
ask me
he?
where they are.
And
Okay,
no,
okay.
well, he's long since. Herschel's dead too, you know.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that for a couple of years
No, I
either.
didn't either.
His wife never let
But
us know.
anyway, Aunt Millie, who was his mother's, the sister of Nathan's wife,
Okay.
she and her husband took in Herschel. And
Herschel,
brought him up.
your-
Herschel
Herschel
Rubin.
J. Rubin.
Herschel J, not our Herschel.
Herschel
He
Rubin.
was a pediatrician. And
Herschel Rubin was his sister's child, Dad's
Okay.
sister's child.
Okay.
he practiced in Tulsa.
Okay, so in the collection of the something or other library at the College of Charleston, South Carolina, is a group of something described as Isaac Dave Rubin store photographs.
Well,
Would that be our
It could have been.
Rubin?
ours,
Well, it was
but
Dave Rubin.
Dave
Well,
Rubin?
here's what it says. Isaac Dave Rubin was born in Russia in 1869. He was educated at the Jewish Theological Seminary in Kovno and immigrated to Charleston, South Carolina in 1894.
No.
He earned a living as the proprietor of several jewelry and pawn shops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Attended
What-
Brit
he
Shalom.
Did he go to seminary? Well, the
Oh, I
seminary
don't
probably
know.
means he went to the
Shiva or.
the-
All right, there's a little more. Attended Beth Shalom Synagogue,
Well, that's
Brith Shalom Synagogue, was president of the congregation in 1909, married Sarah
Yeah.
circa
yeah,
1902,
Yeah.
and had several children. He died in Charleston in 1943 and is buried at Brith Shalom Cemetery.
Yeah. No, that's
So that's
Uncle Dave.
that's your
That's
father's.
Uncle Dave.
Dad's
Father's
brother.
brother.
And it says here, collections consists of 5 original photographs, circa 1910, of ID Rubin stores in Charleston, South Carolina. Includes 2 interior and 2 exterior image of Uncle Dave's New York pawn office. What? No, wait, there's more. 128 to 130 Market Street. Exterior image of Rubin Specialty Store, 316 King Street, operated by Leon Rubin, son of Isaac Dave Rubin.
Yeah.
There was another
there
Leon.
was a Leon. Yeah.
Okay, all photographs are mounted on decorative
the
board, blah,
oldest
blah, blah,
one.
blah.
Okay,
So
wait.
that's our,
That's
Yeah.
our
It's
that's
your-
our family.
so we need to make
Uncle.
a trip to Charleston one of
I'm
these
all
days.
about going to
My
Charleston.
uncle, yeah.
Wait,
Wow.
wait. Who was the other Leon Rubin before
He
Leon
was
Rubin?
a son. He would have been Dave's son.
So
Dave's
there was
son
a-
was also named Leon Rubin.
Yeah.
They were all
Okay.
named for.
I stumbled across this one night when I was looking myself, seeing where I might show up on the internet.
You can
and-
find Cine on the internet too. Norman did
Oh, yeah?
Sine.
with pictures.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
what they
yeah, it's a
did.
very nice. It comes
Oh.
in both Polish and in English.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
And it's a
I'm gonna
much
bookmark
better looking town. I always pictured one of
They
those
were trying to make a
Horrible.
resort out of it.
Oh,
wood
okay.
slat.
Did you ever go there, Aunt Betty, on your
No,
travels?
I never went to Poland because Dad never talked very much about his life in
I
Poland.
bet.
I know that there was such a separation between the Jews and the non-Jews that when they finally Dad spoke Polish because his friends had some kind of a shop, which sounded kind of like a ship's chandler to me, but anyway.
Yeah, they supplied stuff to the military.
Yeah, but anyway, he spoke Polish. But when he was in the first class of Jewish boys allowed to go to the gymnasium, the high school, and he had to translate for the other Jewish kids who only knew Yiddish, not Hebrew, Yiddish.
Oh.
And but this business about him going out under a load of hay when
Yeah.
the Vietnam War was on. Would you have been the right age? So just about.
Almost.
Somebody
yeah.
said to me, "Would you want your nephew to go to Canada, to escape going in the army?" And I said, "It's an old family tradition."
Well, you know what they did with the Jewish boys.
They
at
said
that time?
Shivas if they
They took
died.
the Jewish boys into the army and they never let them out. They were in for 25, 30 years.
Or if they
If
they
they
had to
survived.
eat non-kosher food, so they were considered as dead. I mean, they used to sit Shiva.
Yeah.
They were still alive, and oh, that's awful. Well, why did they do that? Just because they needed? Why were the Jews so persecuted by
Oh,
them?
Because they
honey,
killed Christ.
that's a
Right,
question.
go back
Is that
to,
still?
I
still
mean, how
bad?
much time have you got?
Because
Yeah, I know. I mean,
they
but it
were-
just
They were a small group and they were good scapegoats. And anytime
Anytime and
the
anywhere.
big shots wanted somebody to blame on something that they did, it was the Jews that did it. They used to in the ghettos.
Well, they still do it now.
Well, I
They-
know.
they
I got
was-
a little taste of that
And
in
they always
both.
thought the Jewish people in the ghettos hoped that no little Christian boys would disappear around Passover.
Yeah, right.
Because they were sure they were going to use the blood in
To
their...
make the matzahs.
Oh, for
yeah,
heaven's
that's put on the
sakes.
doorpost.
Oh, for heaven's sakes!
Work.
I didn't realize. Well, remember when we had this conversation before when we taped you, and you said that because I asked why. It was on our tour of the house, and I asked why they chose to build here instead of like up on the hill or whatever, and you told me that they weren't allowed to build on the hill,
No.
or they weren't. Yeah.
There was
No.
property up there that they could not buy. They built down here because the high school was up there.
And Mother didn't want to worry about Dad
coming up
driving
and
down
down
to
the
business
hill in
every
the-
day
in
and
the
us
winter.
in school
That's why
coming
they
down
built
to
here.
St. Clair Avenue
Wasn't
in
there
the
something
winter.
about Jews weren't allowed to build up there?
On the
Jews weren't
on the
allowed.
boulevard.
Jews
and
weren't going to be in the country club
Right.
on the
until they
boulevard
got
and
the
some
word
place
that the
called
guys who
Forsyth
really
Place.
owned the
They
potteries
couldn't buy
in
the
Pittsburgh were
property.
Jews. So
what I was
Dad and
thinking.
I mean, it
Dr.
wasn't- it
Rich and
wasn't
Morris
the whole
Newman
town
were
or
the
anything, but it was just
Yeah.
token
certain
Jews.
areas.
Then came the Depression, and they needed money, so they took the other Jews.
Uh,
Now, of course, grocers live on Park Boulevard.
And at one point,
Lives on,
somebody out there,
Side.
Mother never went to those ladies' bridge thing, but Aunt Fredland did and other people. And somebody said to Mother, everybody likes you because you don't go where you know you're not wanted.
How hurtful is that? I just can't get over that. Because, you know, I mean, I know it exists.
Welcome
and
to early 20th century,
That's
or mid
right.
20th century
I can
America,
honestly say,
right?
Susie, that I was never,
But
I
I
was
was.
aware, but I don't think I was ever a victim
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
was.
of being treated like that. You think
What,
you were
you
Betty?
in,
Oh, I know I
well,
was. I could
in
begin-
college years or here in East
Here.
Liverpool? Yeah?
Well, I
Maybe
mean,
that was just-
I didn't
just
have any
you.
trouble in college because I didn't let myself get into the. I mean, I was. Had problems in college because I was a woman who wanted to go into science.
It was
Yeah.
smart.
And the only reason I got a place in graduate school was because the war was
The only
on.
thing that the High Y Club did not accept Jewish boys.
Mhm.
And in my senior year, all of my friends who were High Y arranged it so they invited me if I wanted to join, and I said, no, thank you, since we
Yeah,
were
but
not
Herschel,
accepted
do you
before.
remember when the Ohio State Orchestra came and played in town? The orchestra. They toured the state giving concerts.
I did it with
You
the
were-
band, concert
You
band.
weren't, then, yeah, the concert, but you weren't in it.
Yes, I was.
Well, this-
oh,
this-
that at the time they.
No, there was
Well, I was
another,
here once, but I.
there was another time,
Oh, good thing.
and they were asking people to take the kids in.
Oh, to
To
stay.
slay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Mrs. McCutcheon, whose husband was given the $2 for the marriage license by my father, my mother heard her say, no Jewish boys, please.
I didn't know that because Keith and I
I know,
were good,
well,
close friends, good friends.
well, because
I was
Dr.
real-
McCutcheon said to her, Lee and Rubin was awfully good to me at one time, and you're gonna let.
She was from Balmer,
Yeah.
Maryland.
Balmer,
No, but I
Maryland.
mean, I'm just
Oh,
telling
I was
you.
like,
And I
Balmer.
thought, where in the hell is Balmer?
Well,
Baltimore.
yeah, I'll tell you one other reason
No,
that
Keith
Dave
McCutcheon
might have gone.
was the
There were a bunch of
valedictorian.
landsmen.
He went into the Marine
in-
Corps
in
and he would
Charleston.
have been the
Yeah.
top man
Were
in
they
the Marine Corps.
Mishpocha or?
He died of
No,
cancer
in
at an
Charleston.
early age.
And,
Sad.
you know,
He
what
would
was the
have been- he
name of
was
that
next
whole
in line to
family in
be-
Charleston?
Oh, maybe not next in line,
Oh, yeah.
but he was
You
on
know,
the track.
there was a doctor and,
He was first, he was a
Hirsch.
valedictorian, I came in third.
Who were the landsmen
I'm sorry, what?
Who were the landsmen in Charleston? You know, the doctor and
Oh, Banoff.
Banoff. The Banoffs were there, and I think
Leon and Rita Banoff?
probably.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure
that
about the
Uncle
Rita, but
Dave may
Leon,
have got. They came from the same town. A
Oh,
landsman is somebody who came from the same town.
oh, I thought that was the name.
Oh,
And I think, I mean, that may very well be why Dave went. You know, I
Oh,
mean,
because someone from his town was already there.
well, I don't know,
Because
but
I mean, of all the
it's a
places to choose, I just always was curious why they chose Charleston.
Well, they used to go to all the seaports. New Orleans had a bunch who came. I mean,
Really?
Baltimore, yeah.
Was it as bad in the South? Because
Huh?
you know we hate everybody.
Well,
In
yeah,
the
it was
South.
the
There's a
same
Jewish
everywhere.
family that came to Toronto, can't think of the name, they thought they were going to Toronto, Canada.
Oh, no.
Toronto? It's bad.
Yeah, well,
You know, and
I don't know who they were, I heard that story.
that's
So.
cute. I just
Well,
wonder.
Dad had a store in Canton too. Rubin and Lipson had a store in Canton
Oh, yeah.
at the same time as a store here,
A jewelry store.
a jewelry store. Actually, Dad, when he and Phil Lipson started here, they had a pawn shop on the Diamond.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, wait a minute. Who was he partner with?
Phil Lipson,
Lipson.
Lipson.
Lipson, like Paul Lipson.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Were they
there
were
was
they
a
related?
third one
I-
too, wasn't there?
I'm sorry.
There was a third one too. It seems to me they had Canton.
Blair, East Liverpool. Well, I don't know. They may have given up the Blair thing when they
Well,
moved up here.
because as I understood it, all three of them got married about the same
Oh,
time.
that I don't know.
And they decided to
You know a lot
each
more
take,
about this stuff than I do.
each
of course,
take
you
a
mix it
store
up.
because
Oh.
then their wives wouldn't be fighting about who was getting more money.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
my.
So they took Mother took East Liverpool because it was closest to Pittsburgh, which was where my where Mother came from.
See, Betty spent a lot more time with them as an adult than I did,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she would
Yeah.
know all this stuff.
Well, okay,
Well,
well,
I know that's true.
they were your grandparents were in Pittsburgh.
My
Yeah,
grandfather,
yeah.
my mother's parents.
That is
Right.
Why were they in Pittsburgh?
because
where
he
Grandpa
went there
came
to
for a
work
job.
in the pants factory.
That was the
'cause his
tailor.
mother
That's where
was
he
the
was
tailoring end of
tailor
the family.
guy. Okay, okay. All right, I'm all right with that.
Now that was your mother's
family.
father.
Fredland.
Yeah,
the
right.
Fredlands.
And where
So-
did they come from originally?
Riga.
Riga.
Well, Grandpa
That's
came from
good.
Kovna,
What?
Yeah.
and Grandpa's story was very, very dramatic because
Wait, this is the Fredland grandpa?
Fredland Grandpa, he was the youngest of 4 kids. His father was a yeshiva bacher, and his mother's father,
That's
a
the
yeshiva
studier.
bacher, yeah, his mother was the daughter of somebody who had a brewery. And at first she died,
never heard of this.
and his father remarried,
Mhm.
and maybe, I don't know how fast, but then the brewery burnt down.
Oh,
And
my.
Grandpa, who was an extremely proud, maybe too proud person. No, I loved him dearly. He really was. He
The
was
thing I
not,
remember about Grandpa is when
he
he
took
kissed you, his
himself
mustache
off.
tickled.
at age 14 or something, and apprenticed himself to a tailor. In
He was
Kovna.
14,
Well, I don't know if he was 14 or 16.
but still a young man.
He apprenticed himself to a tailor. Sleeping under the cutting table in the shop and stuff. And when he finally was able to go out on his own, he went to Riga, where he got quite a figure among the Jewish community because he was quite beautiful.
Aw.
He really was, and always dressed,
Yeah, yeah.
And he, they had maid marriages in those days, and so he was introduced to Grandma, who was a little bit of a blue-eyed blonde thing,
Bella, wasn't it?
Bella, yeah,
Aw.
and who was madly in love with him because there was one night
That's so cute.
he took her and her mother to the theater. He was a big theater and opera goer. And he took them, and Bella stood up and waved to a friend of hers across the audience, and that wasn't dignified enough for Grandpa. And he was going to break the engagement, but he said she was so much in love with me, I didn't have the heart.
Aw.
No, I have practically no real recollection of her at all. I know she
No,
was
but
there.
he lived here. You were away at college already when he came here.
Well, no, but I remember
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I know we must
Well,
have
yeah,
visited
she was sweet, but
them.
not
We must have
very
visited them in the...
dynamic. But
If you mess up those stamps, I'm gonna kill you.
Don't worry.
But
That was serious words.
when he came here, I was about 13.
You
Came
wanna-
to live with
wanna
y'all?
Yeah, this
try one?
last after Grandma
You have
died,
one?
he was sick too.
Without
He
you
had a
wanna-
heart condition, and I would get sent upstairs.
Yeah, maybe.
To go to bed, and I'd get half my clothes off and go into Grandpa's room and get in the bottom of the bed and talk to him.
Aw.
Which at first, he thought was, not quite right, this half-dressed female child. But he got so he enjoyed the company, and this used to go on almost every
If
night.
not, this is alright.
Now, how old were you at this point?
Or was it about 13 to 17?
How long do you
if
think he's gonna go on?
I don't know.
Days?
And
I got a 2-hour tape.
is that
No,
a
this is
tape
very
recorder?
interesting.
Anyway, Amy was a darling. I mean, he was horrendously vain, and he's the only vain person I've ever known who was lovable with it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he was very good and sweet and kind. He was vain, but not selfish, if you follow.
Now, and how many children did they
They
have?
had originally 6, but they ended up with 5 living ones. There was a girl. The only other girl died, and Mother had 5 brothers, 2 older and 3 younger.
Mm-hmm.
And
woman.
Grandma was illiterate because there was no money to.
A case made by your sister?
Ah, very good.
There was no money to educate the girls, and this was the sorrow of her life. She would never have a really close friend because she didn't want anybody to discover. And what she would do in stores, when she'd say to the clerk, "I forgot my glasses. What is this price?" Anyway, they had, Mother must have been, maybe, I guess Grandpa must still have been there when Mother was born, but only just. And he came here.
There's some way to do this.
And then there was Louis, who eventually, for reasons which we'll never know, there was a big split between Louis and my mother. I don't think and there was Louis and Max who were older, and Uncle
I
Max
thought they didn't approve of what's
was
her
married
face.
to a woman who was totally deaf and very vain, and I think he had no real, you know what I mean. And so we were his family, so to speak.
Who are we talking about?
Max.
Uncle Mac.
Then there was Morris, who's Mimi and Alan's father, who
Okay.
Dad took in to teach the jewelry business to. And there was Fritz, who was Isaac, who was Danny and Mio's father, but Dad also trained. And did he train Jake or?
Yeah.
Yeah, they all came and lived with Mother and Dad when Mother was, yeah. Anyway, then they all went into business for themselves.
Wait, okay. Did they all? They came here after.
After my folks got married,
After,
the
okay.
boys came. Well, they were
Okay.
younger.
Yeah.
But all during their schooling and whatnot, if there's any dealing to do with the teachers or anything, Mother had to do it. Because she it was the only one who really spoke fluent English, and, you know. And anyway, she got Seal Fredland, who was Uncle Fritz's wife, was scared to death before, because she always heard about, you know. Actually, my mother was a good sister-in-law. She really was. But the boys had talked her up so much, their wonderful sister Anne, Anne Fredland, who's Mimi's mother, hated Mother, and there's stories there. I mean, one time, Mother said Anne had a beautiful hat, but Mother wanted to borrow it over somewhere. And Anne took offense because Mother was indicating that before Anne married Mother's brother, she never had a decent hat. You know. So, I mean, but anyway, they managed to rub it out together all in East Liverpool. But Louis's wife, I'll never know what happened.
I
And
thought the Pep on them, I didn't like her, and that's where the thing was.
none of us will. And if you remember when it was Mother's funeral and Eddie came down with Alice, and I said, Eddie, you know, because Mimi had always kept in touch with Louis's family.
Uh-huh.
And by this time Uncle Max was dead, but Eddie's son, or
By the
Louis'
time you get that set up,
son
we're gonna be
brought
finished.
Uncle Max's widow
You taping already?
Hmm?
down at the day, not for the funeral, but, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Eddie, you know, I wonder whatever, did you ever know what happened? He said, it was all your mother's fault.
Oh,
Well, I mean, he was kidding, you know, maybe none of us will ever know what that was. But Max was very much here, and Morris and Ann lived right here.
Here,
No,
next
they
door.
they lived
A
in.
couple houses down.
Well, that was much later. They lived up on
On
corner of
Monroe
the
Street,
row
I mean,
and,
between here and the
and
temple, I
alley.
mean,
Oh, okay.
between here and the temple, you know, just around the corner. And then, I don't know exactly how Fritz got to Detroit, and Jay worked for a jeweler in Pittsburgh.
well, Fritz was more of the wholesale diamonds and stuff. I don't think he had a store.
I don't remember, I mean, I was in it, but anyway, Fritz was a darling.
I know it was on something called
Fritz
John
and
R.
Max.
Street.
Fritz and Max were really great. And actually, Fritz's wife, Seal, was, when I was little, I used to say, anything happens to my folks, I want to live with Fritz and Seal.
Uh-huh.
But I would have,
Well, Ike and Jake were in the World War I,
yeah.
and Fritz he spent the war somehow in Cuba.
In
my-
Guantanamo.
Oh, my
I thought
Lord.
And he was the one who wanted to go and fight.
But
Oh.
and Jay
And
got,
Jay
got a
got-
thing along his at Bella Wood, and
Yeah.
he had that scar forever.
And Jay was a bachelor for a long time.
Mm.
And then the story that he told me was that he got a bad case of the flu, and Lillian, who worked in the store, came and brought him soup and this and that. And he thought somebody that was that nice to him he should marry.
That was in Pittsburgh.
Aw.
Yeah, so I was telling
You worked
Richard
for
is
D.
their
Royce.
son, and the only time
Right.
I've
This is
ever
Dick
seen
Trent.
Dick
Dick Trent.
Trent.
Who you-
Dick is the only time I ever saw Dick was at the funeral, because I had left home by the time he would have been coming
Oh, yeah,
with
because you're
them.
older
But I
than
told
he.
this story, to Rick, to Dick, and I said, but I guess he said they fought like mad all the time.
We had a lot of intermarriages in our family.
Yeah, well, the only time.
Max's wife was Catholic.
Mhm.
Uh-oh.
Jay's wife was, I think, Methodist.
All right.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all.
I'm not alone.
But the only
Speaking
time.
of which, that thing that Lee was telling me, I haven't been able to find out any information.
Oh, there's no rush. We
I'm
have
feeling okay
The only
today.
You may have
time
to
I ever
convert.
heard any complaints out of Grandpa.
I don't know.
Well,
Well, there was an
I
older
can
child, older
Or-
than Dick, that
and somebody
died as a
decided
infant.
papers that you.
And was
I don't
buried
Why
know.
would
in
they
a-
care?
Well, because that's the way it is.
But who would care
And
now?
that bothered Grandpa.
I don't know, dear. By the time it happens, there won't be anybody left that's here now.
That's what I'm hoping.
What's this?
We were going to, my Uncle Max had 2 plots. We were gonna bury Alice in one, and I talked to Norman about it. He said, well, we'll bring her at night sometime.
Yeah.
But she got
disappeared.
sick, and she went off the radar.
Into
And
her
she-
family.
And
Oh.
some Catholic sisters in Pittsburgh took care of it, and she was dead 2 years before I even knew about it. Mimi knew.
Oh, I know, but I didn't know.
Yeah,
so
so-
they
No,
buried
but
her.
Annie brought Alice down. This is the day Mother was buried.
Uh-huh.
Okay? He brought her down at lunchtime. And arrives Alice in a light gray suit and light gray suede shoes. And she says to me, she's not even in the door, I was going to ask you to take me up to Max's grave, but it's been raining. Is it muddy up there when I ruined my shoes?
It's right next to ours.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I said, yes, Aunt Alice, it's very muddy up
Yeah.
there. You would
No
ruin
need for
your
you to
shoes.
go.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-mm.
But
So let me back up a minute. So those of you who grew up here, you two and Mimi and Alan,
That's right.
were the only ones of the family who grew up
They
in East
stayed
Liverpool.
here.
right.
Okay. And Mimi and Alan's father,
Was Morris.
Morris, was
Maurice.
Maurice was in business in town. Was a tailor in town?
No,
He
No.
had a jewelry store.
Oh, he was also true.
He had a jewelry store next to where it's burned down, but next to where Paul Braslowski's store is.
Okay.
In
On
that
the
building,
diamond.
On the
the whole thing burned down, and then that's where
But
his store
he
was.
he became a jeweler
After
through
he
your
left.
dad?
Right.
Mother and Dad took in each of the boys.
Okay,
I
missed that part.
Yeah, your
Okay,
dad, your
except-
grandfather
And they
trained them
learned the
all.
jewelry
Except
business.
Mac, not Max.
Not Max. Max was in the insurance business.
Well, wasn't it kind of
I
bad for
don't
there to
know
be
what
two
Louis
jewelry
did.
stores?
So were they?
What did Louis do?
I'm sorry.
What did Lou do?
Haven't the slightest idea.
Now, Lou's wife was a cousin to Dorothy Stein's mother, Dorothy Gardner's mother. The Steins that lived there. Were they gone, I suppose, before he came along?
Was that the Leonard
Gloria-
Stein family? The,
No,
no, different
no.
Stein. Okay.
Well, when was Lou's wife Agnes?
Who? Louis's wife?
Yeah.
No, it
Where did
wasn't Agnes.
was
Agnes was one of the cousins. Grandpa had a sister. No, yeah, one of Grandpa's.
but Agnes's husband was named Lou, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was
Different.
Nancy, Bernie and Alan. No, one of the 4 kids was a sister, and who was there and was married the Kriegers.
Yeah.
And there was Sadie and Aggie, and I don't know, 2 or 3 others.
What's your purse?
I just need drugs. I need antihistamines. I can feel my nose clogging up and my
When you're
eyes.
ready, I'll take you down, Lee.
He said he might have an antihistamine here. That's
I
all I
got
need.
some here.
Plain old everyday
Yeah, but we ought to
antihistamine.
get your purse so you don't wake up in
Yeah.
the middle of the night and want us to go get it.
This is true.
I
But
got-
I can go
it's,
get it
it's,
myself.
it's the generic form of Claritin.
I don't know. You never know with me. These are plain old everyday antihistamines.
This is plain everyday antihistamine.
Let her get her own,
I used to take Claritin all the time. And
then we don't have
you
any.
have one? Oh, you're a good man. I was going to ask you something else about. Thank you so much. I'll be fine now.
You better get her purse before she goes to bed.
Yeah, I don't
Or
want my.
she'll get us up in the middle of the night.
What about my
and want it.
credit cards and stuff in my purse? That
That's
would
why
be
we
bad.
got the
Where's the
thing
car
in the
out
garage.
front?
Okay,
garage.
no, I'll
It's in
go.
the garage.
When my real first first question was how did,
You've already asked your first.
I've moved on to another first question.
Okay.
How did your parents meet?
Oh, at a wedding in Steubenville.
Because they seem
Wedding?
so,
No, I'll tell you this
I
story.
thought it
They
was
went
at
to a
a,
wedding
I
in
thought it was at
Steubenville.
a dance at the
Uh-huh.
Half Moon Club in Steubenville.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a wedding.
it's
And,
okay, we can have
and
just
Dad,
But we can agree on Steubenville.
Dad met Mother, and he went over to Grandma, because the whole family was there, and said, I'm coming to your house for dinner next Sunday because I'm going to marry your daughter. Well, 5 or 7 years later,
really?
they got
I
married.
mean, they had that long of a courtship?
Yeah, well, Mother wasn't madly enthusiastic to get married.
She'd have been much, we wouldn't have been here, but she would have been better off if she
I
had.
think, yeah. But finally, Grandma got to her that she was getting to be 25 and nice Jewish girls get married. She was going to be an old maid, so she married.
Mother had a good job with some manufacturing concern in
Oh, and she was the office manager.
And then she became a teacher after
Well,
that.
because she had taken a teacher's certificate. She'd gone
Oh.
to normal school, because that was Grandpa's dream, but she couldn't get a teaching job right
Oh, I didn't
away.
realize she was a teacher.
And she got this other job, which she loved. And then a teaching job opened up, and Mother being Mother, because her father wanted her to be a teacher, quit the other job and went to be a teacher. And that's the story of Mother's life. Whatever she didn't want to do, she had to do. And it's too bad. I mean, Dad had to have been one of the most patient people in the whole world.
Well, and remember, Aunt Betty, when you said, I forget what I asked you, and you said, oh, about the diamond, and you said Mother was afraid Father would lose his mind and she would be penniless. Now, where did that come from?
From inside her mind.
Oh, she just thought that. I mean,
Yeah. She had to have a diamond to be for security.
all right. Well, he was in the jewelry business. That made sense. And when,
Oh, well, the real story, when they got married, she had $40, was it, or 25?
Something not very much.
And he said to her, you better let me take care of your money for you.
We went to St. Augustine.
oh,
So she never forgave him for that, but
Oh.
she kept talking all the time about her money. Because what Dad did, not that $40 that came up once in a while, what Dad did was every Friday or whenever it was that the bookkeeper at the store made up the wage packet, she made up an envelope for Mother for her, running the house and whatnot money. So that, and she didn't always spend it all, so that was, she was always talking about her money, where she thought it came from.
that's very funny.
Anyway.
Well, I know, weren't they really philanthropic in the
Oh,
town as
very.
well,
Oh,
like you
yeah.
guys?
Oh, yes.
Because
And
they're-
very civic-minded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dad was very, very active
What's that?
publicly.
What's that picture of him, Herschel, where they're all in the long coats? You sent it to us, I believe, a copy of the
Oh, it's a winter
newspaper.
coat, because it was in the winter.
But there's a whole group of
Oh.
them lined
Yeah,
He was a
up.
founding member of something or other.
That was something
Not-
good.
That wasn't the temple.
No, it wasn't the
No.
temple. It
No,
was
there was
something
that
else.
one you just sent me not long
Yeah.
ago. They were all out of the diamond again.
Something good.
Civic-
Yeah,
that
Okay.
just,
Chamber of Commerce or
Yeah.
Or war bonds, victory bonds.
that's what it was.
Victory
Yeah.
bonds.
Yes,
during the
yeah.
war,
yes.
No, Dad was always, I think originally they probably got him dragged him into it because when they wanted to collect money, he would go to Jews and get.
Dad was one of the charter
get the
members of
money.
Rotary.
okay.
But-
Now, I'm surprised they took Jews.
They took him.
I mean, I guess they did. And lucky they did.
He was, I think he and Mr. Benham were the first Jewish people in the country club.
No,
Dad.
it was Dr. Rich and Morris Newman and Dad. That
Oh,
night
what
they
it was,
belonged.
it not Ben, okay.
No.
Oh, I was when we drove by the temple with Pam and
Yeah.
Rachel, and I was telling them a little bit of what I knew about that history, and that the conservative synagogue and the
Well, that's
Reformed
recent
synagogue
history.
merged. Was there also at one time an Orthodox synagogue?
It wasn't a conservative, it was the Orthodox.
Oh, it
and
was
Reformed.
So were there only two in town?
Two.
Okay, so there was the original would have been
The Orthodox.
It was down, where the moose,
yeah.
that's where it was.
So that was B'nai,
That was
Jacob?
B'nai Jacob.
Yeah.
and so that was the original synagogue in town
Well, that was the
Yes,
Orthodox.
that was before the temple.
before our temple.
Ours
Okay,
was B'nai Israel.
right. Right, okay, so there were,
This was built in 1921.
so there were two, and then,
There were two.
okay, I thought there might have been a
And they
third.
did not average out a conservative, they are a mixture of Orthodox.
Yeah,
and
okay.
And then, so your dad was one of the founding members of that congregation?
Reformed
No,
congregation.
no, the congregation was founded actually in 1892.
Oh, really?
Oh,
But see, the dad didn't come here until 19.
But he was the
Yeah.
treasurer. and
because
stuff.
there's that picture of him in the temple.
Yeah, right.
Well, was there a Reformed synagogue before this, the temple?
No, they
No,
met.
in
They met in various places.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll have to keep. I got a history of that. I mean, I wrote
Yeah.
it.
Oh, all right.
They would have services in the Oddfellows.
Mm-hmm.
They had services in the Maccabees building, which is up above the cleaners there across from Ogilvy's.
Mm-hmm.
They had services in the Elks,
Mhm.
holiday services.
It's kind of
Oh,
fun.
okay.
There was where the review parking lot is. There was a moose lodge, and they
Yeah.
had Sunday school, I think. There, the temple wasn't built until 20. It was dedicated in 22.
Okay.
Huh, okay.
But,
If you sell that, then what happens to the stuff inside, like everybody's name on the
That-
whitey up board?
there's a temple up in, I think it's Aliquippa, that will take that.
Is that in Ohio?
No, in Pennsylvania.
It's
Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Between here and
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
along the river. I think it's either Aliquippa or Ambridge. I think it's Aliquippa.
And you would, like, what do you do? Do you sell your Torahs?
Well, yeah,
Well, they
yeah,
can.
they can, yeah.
I mean, it
Whatever
has to
you
be
Sort of like a
sold to another
liquidation sale.
congregation.
Well, their congregation, or I think they gave a Torah once to a congregation someplace that
Yeah.
didn't have one, and I think they did sell one.
Well, if they decide to tear it down, I'd like to have a pew. So just make them save me a pew. You know I'm not kidding.
You're
pew
gonna
would be
come up with a
fabulous.
van and take it down.
All
and
right.
throw
It could be
down.
cut in half and put back
Those are the
together.
most uncomfortable seats that were ever.
All I want out of there is the everlasting light.
The eternal light, yeah.
Eternal light, yes.
I mean, I can remember
Because I let it
suffering
when I
through
was-
those
Right.
Are you
services
allowed to have that?
on
in your
those
house?
wooden
Why not?
seats.
Who's gonna stop him?
It's true, would stop him.
Yeah.
Why that you light that when your
It's
church
lit
is
all the time.
consecrated
Yeah,
or
it's lit
whatever?
all the time. The only time it was ever turned off on purpose was during the war when they had the blackouts.
Oh, sure.
So we didn't let it.
But didn't your parents donate some of the Torah dressings or something
No,
also?
they donated the narrative. I couldn't tell you.
I thought there was something else in the
I
art
never-
that
I never heard of
had a family connection.
I know
No,
they
Dad,
gave
Dad was the
back, 'cause
treasurer.
I got to light it, and somebody asked me, "How come you didn't?" I said, "Because my mother and dad bought it."
And that's all
He
the
was
reason we know.
not interested in going to temple all that much when he was
Your
a younger
dad?
man.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd go on the holidays and he was a treasurer and he worked hard for it. But it was when he got old that he started going back to temple in Florida mostly because for the company, you know, I mean.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
she died first. Your mom? No,
No,
he
he
did.
died first.
Dad died at 63,
What was wrong with him?
old age.
Oh,
Strokes after strokes after
really?
So
Did
he was 80?
82
something?
or
He
something.
was born in 81 and he died
Oh,
in 82.
82.
Did he? Was he ever in like a? Did he go to a nursing home, or was he
No.
just always staying
He was
home?
here.
Oh,
We had
no.
him out on the porch for,
That's
a
so
while,
I had him
and
on the
then-
Yeah,
porch.
he was in the apartment
yeah.
down here and, you know, at Practical
No,
Marriage.
the next house, not the next
Oh,
one.
that's right. That's right. That's
Where,
right.
Well, now when did they start going to Florida? Because you said originally they or all of you went to Miami or Miami Beach?
they were in Miami.
I don't know, I
They
never
were in
went when
Miami.
they were in
I know
Miami.
at least the first year we were married because Elsa went.
I don't remember ever going anywhere with Sarasota.
No, well, Elsa went down to visit them in Miami for a month.
Yeah, no,
after we were
I
married
don't
a
know
short
where
time.
I was and I
That's when I went down to
don't
Charleston. and
remember any
surprised
of
her.
that.
Well, you would have
Yeah.
been in college at that point, probably.
So I know that would have
Yeah,
been,
but I mean, I went down
that
to
had to be
Sarasota.
39, I think.
You were down there for the 50th.
Yeah.
wedding anniversary.
Well, so
I don't know,
then
she's-
Sarasota was
That's sometime after that. Don't I?
in the late 50s,
Later than that.
even around, well, if I went, it was 1960 or
Yeah, well,
something
that
like that.
was the first
Yeah,
time.
all right, so the
that was
late
their-
50s and
That
early
was their
60s.
50th anniversary. That's when
Yeah.
we went down.
Yeah.
And
That's the
who
first-
was it? You, Aunt Betty, who told the story about leaving a bad child during that, or was that Elsa Ann?
Oh, no.
Someone tells
Me?
the story about the Precious running around and pushing a cart or something at the 50th
Clinking
anniversary.
champagne glasses together or
No,
something.
he didn't push it. I told him he should, Dad, well, I didn't want, everything he did,
What the hell
and he
was
was a
this?
little boy, it was an accident, it was an accident.
At the
And
50th
when we got,
anniversary.
when
Where
I
was
had
I when all
washed
this
up
was
all the
going on?
glasses and put them on the card, I said to him, I don't want to hear it's an accident, I don't want you to get close enough to this card for it to be an accident. He wasn't a bad kid, he was just an
No.
Well, it
actor.
was
No, I like
5
that.
or something.
I like the story about why you locked up the liquors because your 2-year-old, however, was running around clinking the bottles
Yeah,
together.
all right.
Well, that
But
Those
enough
were
about
fun. I liked those. Um,
But so, wait a minute, so when, I know we've gone from the beginning now to the other end, but, so when Grandpa was ill
yeah.
and came back, my grandmother came also?
Not for a while.
Or she stayed in Florida?
She
No, just to close up.
Oh, okay, so they moved back.
Yeah,
She didn't
yeah.
go back to Florida after he died?
No, no, no.
No, no.
did they own us something in
No,
Florida?
no.
No, they were gonna buy, this is another typical mother story.
Yeah.
They were going to buy an apartment. I don't know, they'd seen one they liked or something. And Mother was having a ball buying furniture and this and that. And one of her friends down there said to her, it's a mistake because your children won't come here to use it when you're not here, and blah, blah, blah. So Mother canceled the sale and sent all the stuff she bought.
This came from Florida.
And that
Yeah,
is
I
a
remember
typical,
What did?
typical.
That credenza, is that what they call
I
it?
mean, that's a
Yeah.
typical mother. I said, why didn't you tell her to mind her own goddamn business?
Yeah.
No, Mother wouldn't do that.
Hmm.
Mm.
But I went down there once. I went
Says
down
well.
before the 50th
Yeah.
anniversary.
Well, I don't know, we would have all been living very comfortably on the sale of that property 40 years later.
I went down one time. They had these two couples that were friendly with, and the men were all sick. And they'd all been men who had, Dad at the jewelry store, but one of them was an engineer who built bridges, and I forget what the other one, and we go out for the 5 o'clock dinner someplace, and we sit down, and it starts, don't eat all three of them.
Yeah.
Don't eat your rolls, just spoil your appetite. Don't order the chicken, you really like the fish. All the way around this thing until I suddenly started pounding the table. I said, stop it, stop it, stop it! They had these poor guys right under their
Oh
thumb.
my.
Yeah.
So then came the day of the
wait,
anniversary
You
party.
mean the wives did that?
The wives
Oh, I
did it
thought
to
you
the
meant
men.
did.
Yeah, okay.
Then came the day of the party, and one of them had to take her son and daughter-in-law to the airport. So they dropped the husband off at our house for the party. It was strict instructions that he was not to eat anything.
Mhm.
And he started at one end of the table and ate his way up to the top, with all the rest of us cheering him on.
It's very cute.
Oh, I mean, it used to drive me insane.
Now, was he sick at this time?
Yeah,
At the
What
50th
couple?
anniversary?
One couple was from South Bend, I
I don't know.
think. And the other was from
Yeah, well, the
Cleveland.
one from, no, those weren't the ones that I mean,
That's
no.
not the one.
The South Bend ones, now he was a landsman of Dad's.
Oh.
And when Dad once had an emergency operation for a hernia, and I went down, and this fellow, the one from South Bend, who'd gone to whatever the equivalent of grammar school was with Dad, he would come and sit and talk to Dad, and he liked to talk about the old days and stuff.
Oh.
And I heard more about life in Sydney in that couple of weeks than I ever did from Dad, because Dad really, I mean, it was I don't remember whether it was Dad or Frank Diamond, whose mother used to put the kids in the cellar under a trapdoor when they were having Army exercises in the summer. She would put the kids, and put a pickle barrel or something over the trapdoor until the Army had left the area.
That's so awful.
But and Dad would talk about things. I mean, he must have been a hellion because he would tell about how they would steal potatoes and roast them. Or one time, they whoever taught them at the what do they call where the
Cater.
theater. the theater, which was a
Yeah.
school for, they had this nasty
They studied Hebrew.
rabbi who would kick them in the behind so they put boards in their pants and deliberately baited him and they came and he broke his
Oh,
They
yay.
also used to put stuff up the chimney to get smoke from the stove.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, from the things he knew to tell us not to do, we were pretty sure that he'd had a pretty, he hadn't been such a goody-goody when he was a
Yeah,
kid.
that's funny.
But
What, do you know how to spell the name of the city in Poland?
SEJNY.
S.
J
S-E-J or S-J?
Got it.
SJENY.
Oh, here we go.
It's been swallowed up into, it was Latvia? Is that the one that was Latvia?
No.
It's
Sydney
Poland
is in
now.
Poland.
Poland.
It's in the
It's in
Atlas.
Suwałki Gubernia.
Yeah, honey, look that up.
Riga.
Right there it is.
Yeah.
Sydney is located in Poland near the Lithuanian border
Yeah.
between Warsaw and Vilnius.
No,
Its coordinates are blah, 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 blah. During the Russian Empire and Polish Kingdom, it was considered part of the Suwałki Gubernia.
That's
which
like a
was
county.
state.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that have
Well-
a picture? Norman
Yeah, there's a
found
picture of the
it.
synagogue.
Yeah, that
Norman
must
had a
be the
picture
one
of
that
it.
Norman found.
Isn't it odd that he wouldn't talk about it? Because to me, 12 years, he accomplished so much. I would be telling everyone every day, when I was 14,
No, but
He just
he
wasn't
didn't
like,
have to.
"Well,
Well, because there was always the fear of what the Russians might do.
how did they ever have enough money to come?
Well, they had this. Well, first of all, it didn't cost as much then.
It's true.
Probably Dave sent the money for that. I
We
mean,
had a
I don't.
business.
Grandma Fredland didn't have to come steerage. I mean, she didn't come first class, but she didn't have to come steerage. But I wouldn't want to swear that Dad or Grandpa Fredland didn't come steerage. But Dad had a trousseau of two great big silver serving spoons and two or three teaspoons. And I think it was the ladle, the soup ladle house. Yeah, and a great big silver soup ladle. That was what his mother gave him when he came.
Are there pictures of their wedding?
Who, my folks?
I've never seen one.
We have pictures of
No.
so many things here. I
The
just
first,
wonder.
no, I got pictures of when they went to Charleston on their honeymoon, I think, or when they stopped in
Yeah,
Charleston.
the one in St. Augustine.
And but they must have stopped in Charleston because I got a picture of Mother in her silver fox and her big hat. I mean, she was not only good looking; she had the looks that were fashionable
Yes,
at her time.
Yes.
She was a perfect Gibson girl
yes.
type with a big thing.
I love that picture of her with Herschel, the baby
Yeah,
picture, perfect
right.
baby
Well,
picture.
but I mean, she's absolutely a knockout in this picture.
And she has that really long hair. I didn't realize that
Oh,
she had that
she used to
super
be
long
able to
hair.
sit on it.
Mm.
She used to go to Pittsburgh and have it done every 3 months or something. And after she got it cut, which she just had it done at Horns, but we used to go to some special place where they ran some sort of a thing that gave off electric sparks down.
Cool.
And I used to sit on a footstool and watch this whole procedure.
Mm.
But Grandma was a mad lover of the theater because she couldn't read. And she took Mother, and music and all that stuff. She took Mother, and then when I was going to the orthodontist, the theater was halfway between the orthodontist and the train station. So very often, Grandma would meet us, and I'd see, plays in the 20s, I mean, and early 30s that I saw.
Is that how you guys became opera fans? You're both such
No,
big
I
opera
got to be
buffs.
an opera fan. Grandpa loved opera, and it just about then is when when he came to live with us, was when the Saturday afternoon opera broadcast began. So we always,
You gotta remember, I was in college at that
yeah.
Oh, you weren't here. That's right.
And my piano teacher was a disappointed opera singer who'd come back home to give piano lessons. And she called Mother and said, this child is never going to play the piano. You're wasting your money. And she was quite right. And Mother said, well, as long as she wants to come, you play for her. I mean, give her something that she thinks she's taking Elizabeth. Elizabeth used to sing to me, and Elizabeth had this big old house down where you could see the river, and she had bookcases full of old books like Rupert of Hentzau and The Prisoner of Zenda and all of that, and which she would let me bring home and
nice.
read. So that was a great time. You guys gonna go for ice cream?
I
I'm
don't
not
think so
going.
at this point.
No one can make
This is
it.
more interesting than ice
Oh,
cream.
but
I
yeah,
know.
but what did aren't you?
I couldn't get hold of my
They don't
friends,
call.
so
It's a little late now. Probably
interesting.
closed by now.
So then, so let me go back to, so Grandpa came back, and was he here long before he died, or that year, or
a year and a
No,
half
a few
or
months or
so.
something? Okay. And that, so
Well,
then
wait a minute, he died in
June.
June, and he would have been back not very
I
long.
think, Herschel, I'd been over to Europe on that 6-month sabbatical. No, that was when Mother died.
So
I
Mother
got home
died.
just in time. No, but I'd been away in Europe on a trip, because I remember it's the only time I ever had such a fixed itinerary that they had where I was going to be every day. But I got back just before he died.
Wasn't it isn't it when your mother died that Elsa Ann was getting married?
Yeah.
And that's the story about, I don't care what happens, we're having this wedding on this day, it's my favorite.
Oh, well, it was a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, but I mean, it could have been.
Could have been any moment.
No, I told Frank Dawson if it happened at the time they could put Mother on ice and we could have the wedding.
Well, I was in Naples then on my sabbatical,
Uh-huh.
and I came back for the funeral, but bringing an outfit to wear at Elsa Ann's wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
I stayed another couple of weeks, and
And then you went back to
and then
Italy.
I went back to Italy.
Well, that wedding was a story too.
Oh
we went up. It was going to be in Rochester, New York,
Uh-huh.
at
Right.
the faculty club.
Yep.
And the Hillel rabbi was going to do the service. Well, people from here brought presents and left them here. And Mimi and Dave were going to drive up the day before the wedding and pick up the presents. And well, we got up there and it started to snow. And it snowed, and it snowed, and it snowed. And
So we were the only Rubin
yeah,
representatives.
and Mimi and Dave came, unloaded the thing, got halfway to Youngstown, turned around and came back here, unloaded the
And
presents.
Jay's family were there.
And we went up, I forget what, a couple months later, and met them in Erie,
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Holiday Inn, and had dinner and changed, put the presents in their car.
For heaven's sake.
So I remember that. It snowed so, there was one wedding party in a church that got stuck in the church. They
Oh,
spent the whole wedding
goodness.
night in the church.
That could be just
And
bad.
Jay's grandmother announced that she didn't feel well and she didn't want to eat dinner until they informed her that he was going to have to pay for it, whether she came late or not.
It's funny.
I don't remember the grandmother. I remember, what was her name?
Uncle or aunt.
No,
Seki.
Jay's mother.
Yeah, oh, Sylvia.
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 Who was Aunt Seki? She was the.
That was Sylvia's sister.
Sylvia's sister.
Okay.
She was the one from Albany.
I just always thought it was a cool name.
Yeah, me too.
Well, it's a nickname, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Uh,
So, but then Grandma lived another 3 years or something, right?
No,
Grandma
no.
died in
Oh, you.
67.
I'm sorry. I'm back to Grandpa, and she died in '67,
67,
and
What
she
was
was
wrong
in
with her?
Pittsburgh at
yeah. In
that point.
January, right, yeah. She
Yes,
was in
and
the
I-
nursing home in
What was
Pittsburgh.
wrong with her?
Was
Old
in,
age.
I was in Naples.
That's right. Got it.
She died actually from a massive gastric hemorrhage or gastric.
I don't know. I
something
wasn't
or other.
here.
She was in a coma for about a month.
Mm.
Oh,
died.
that's
She
sad.
was,
I wasn't
there was
here.
no facility here,
Right.
and
Right.
we couldn't leave her alone. As soon as we had a very nice lady who used to work for the store who stayed with her. As soon as we'd go away, she'd send her away, and we decided
She reduced her to a quivering.
Ella Broderick. So that's when we said
Oh, yeah.
there was no place here, so we went up to Negley House. It's not used as that anymore. It's something else.
It was one of the first of the
Yeah.
nursing homes. You know, they had none of these things until Medicare came in. And then the doctors started building them because they could make money. That was the beginning of the retirement home and the nursing home. I mean, there were a few places, but they were pretty awful, you know.
I always threatened to go by, see where it was, and I just never do go on Negley Avenue.
But that was Marion Altman's husband's place.
What, in Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
I remember the manager or manageress, or whatever the hell her name was, Sherry. Cheri, Cherry.
I was never there. I was at the Jewish old folks home when the short time Leah was there.
What?
Leah was in the one in Pittsburgh for a while, Herschel, because I went there and saw her there. You may have moved her to Massillon later.
I
But
didn't.
at first, she was in Pittsburgh.
Where's Massillon? Is that nearby?
It's out that way.
It's in Ohio though,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's about an hour and a half from here.
There was a story, Tanta Celia, who was Grandpa's sister, she used to volunteer at the Jewish old folks home, and she always used to say, whatever happens, don't send me there. So what happens is that Leah and Tanta Celia ended up in side-by-side beds in a room, and Dad went to see Leah, and Tanta Celia's son, whose name I don't remember, was visiting his mother. At which point, Tanta Celia says to my father, "Whatever happened to that sister of yours?" Leon, I mean,
Oh no.
They were, I don't know how they got out of it, but they
Are you
managed.
sure you're not making all this
No,
stuff?
I don't have. You were away at college.
Mm-mm. That's funny. I was asked about the town and your family, but I forgot. Something about the store. Dad. Well, somewhere in our travels about your house, we found, and we might still have it at our house, I don't know where it is right this minute, but we found a book. Oh, I know what it was about the garage. So did they own this whole, because we found the book that had the rental of the garage space right there.
Not
It had
here.
the,
It was
you
down
know,
back of the other
it had the
thing. It's all
rentals
torn
in
down
it.
now, yeah.
that garage
There
that
was
was
a
there.
house there too.
No,
Oh, down at,
Down back of the other building, there was a
or
five-star.
they
yeah,
owned it.
yeah,
So did
yeah,
they own
yeah.
this whole block,
No,
or?
No,
Well, how
no.
did they skip this house and go?
No, they had the double house, which
Right.
is now 4 apartments.
Somebody
Right.
else had this house.
And then, but
They
the
bought this lot for the house.
but the garage was behind that other
The garage was
house,
behind
Yeah.
the other house.
and that
The garage was much newer than the house.
okay.
Did we own both sides of the double house?
Yeah.
Well, who lived in it? Who lived in the other half? A relative, or just we don't know?
No.
It was
And then
around-
we
Originally,
went
when
into
we
4
lived there,
apartments.
it was one side was one family, one side was the other family.
Right, and now
Yeah.
it's 4.
Then sometime after that, I don't really know just when, it was made into 4 apartments.
But your family didn't own it
Well,
then.
you and
Yes.
Elsa
Oh, you
moved
still did
into
when it
one
was
of them
4?
when you got
Yeah.
married.
Oh.
Pardon?
You and Elsa had one of those
Yeah,
apartments.
we
when
lived
you
in
got
one of them
married.
when we were married.
Yeah, I knew that, and then you moved.
And
Here.
then, when Mother and Dad moved to Cleveland, Elsa and the baby moved over here. I was in the Army.
Elsa and the baby.
And,
One of Elsa's aunts came to stay.
yeah, and then, when we got married, well, no, then Mother and Dad then had that apartment. When they came back from Florida, they would be back for a few months,
When they came back from Cleveland and.
Yeah, right.
You see, I never did get this. They moved to Cleveland
Well,
to make a
they
home
came
for
to
Betty
Cleveland
thing.
to make a home for Betty. It was in graduate school, and Dad had sold his store because he couldn't get the merchandise he wanted and this and that. So he sold the store, and quote, "We're going to go to Cleveland and make a home for Betty,"
Yeah.
which was very well. This was when I was in graduate school, and when I finally got my degree, my professor got me a job in Worcester, Massachusetts, on the grounds that he didn't think they'd follow me.
They wouldn't go that far.
Because I used to go into work and have slight hysterics more than one morning a week about whatever I'd had with Mother, before I got there. And so then they moved back, much against Mother's will, they moved back to the apartment here.
Goldhammer was the name of the,
Huh?
Goldhammer was the name
Goldhammer.
for the people from Cleveland.
And
Sam,
Oh, yeah.
he
I
was
remember
in-
that name.
He was
Yeah,
in the,
they had the other half
he
of
was
it.
in the,
In
not
Florida.
United
In
Way,
Florida.
what's the Jewish,
No, the other half of the building was the people who owned it. Goldhammers lived right around the corner.
What was the, Jewish United Way, whatever, I can't. Jewish
UJA.
Huh?
You what, UJA?
Yeah, I think he was in one of the big wheels in that.
Oh, but they were the
What
ones
they
who
were
used to
originally,
talk.
I don't know.
I'll never forget when they said, our son the physician.
Oh.
Not even our son the doctor, but our
Yeah.
son the physician.
Well, okay, so they made a home for you because they feared.
The people I had a room with wanted me to move out for some reason or other. And Dad decided they had to come and get an apartment and make a home for me while I finished graduate school. And we will draw a curtain now over the next 5 years.
Intermission,
Over the
open
next
again.
5 or 6 years.
But it just doesn't seem like your mother to go
Well, they
from.
didn't move back right away after you went.
Yes, they did. Dad brought her back as fast as he could get her back.
Why?
Well, because she hated it here and could only go to the city. She gets to the city, she hated it there.
Because it doesn't seem like her to give up this house that we know she loved.
No, but she was, in theory, going to live in Cleveland was going
Were
to
they
make her
here when
happy.
Lee was born?
Huh?
Were they here when Lee was born? Were they here when Lee was born?
No.
Were they back in East Liverpool?
I was in Worcester.
I know you were.
Had they moved back
They
here
were back. Oh, they came back practically as soon as the year's contract
and then went into the apartment.
went into the apartment.
And she was okay with that?
No,
Well,
but she
because
was
they were
not,
there.
wasn't happy in Cleveland
They
either.
were there and then they were in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
but she
forgot
wasn't
about
happy in Cleveland either. It started out with she didn't like the parents of the mothers of any of my friends. So I would, if I was getting tickets for the theater or concert, I'd get one for her. And the next thing I heard was that if she didn't go with me, I wouldn't have had anybody to go with. If you get the picture. Then there were little episodes like, well, when you're going to Selma's for dinner, what are you gonna wear? And I said, well, maybe my brown dress. This would be like, well, what about your blue dress? I said, my brown, well, I mean,
We do know. We do. That's funny.
and then she insisted on getting the apartment painted while I was writing my thesis.
Oh.
Well, it's only gonna be painting your room one day, and well, of course, you know what they do, they put one brush stroke in each room, and we ended up, Dad was away on business that week, and we ended up staying at the Park Lane or something for a week because the house was unlivable then. I mean,
Well, what business was he in? I thought he sold the store.
he sold the store. Oh, he got a job after the war. He got a job. He'd had this engraving machine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I remember that.
And he got
story.
a job as a traveling salesman.
Yeah.
And he was their delight because he'd go all around and he could tell all the jewelers, you don't really need that fun, but you need that, and they believed it.
So he sold the machine.
He sold the
Hermes.
machine.
Hermes.
Huh?
Hermes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Engraving machine.
amazing.
Yeah.
Engraving machine.
I don't know how you remember all this stuff.
Oh, well, I lived through it.
You don't have one.
No.
Too
If
bad.
you do, we're gonna take it. We've room in the car.
We never had one in there.
Well, he was busy selling.
But
it.
and those were sold mostly to jewelry stores?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, and that
And
sounds
he
like a
could
good
show them
job
how
for him.
the people there how to use it. This was when, until then, it had all been hand engraving.
He could do that.
Huh.
Dad knew how to do
That's
that.
really fabulous. Especially,
And when I was in New York, some years later, he would come to the Jewelers Convention at the Waldorf. And it would
Uh-huh.
take us an hour and a half to get across the Waldorf lobby because he knew everybody.
oh,
And whose kids were sick and whose wives were sick and,
he was a good man.
yeah, well, but he was also, he made him a wonderful salesman for them.
Well, you'll be interested to know that the new Hermes engraving company is still
Still next to
very much in business.
Down around Washington Square someplace.
I know.
Really?
I had
It
them
wasn't
up,
very far from your
I
apartment.
had them up to dinner at my
Or from the
apartment one
university or
time,
something.
because they used to take me out, Dad was there, and they'd had me to their house, I had them up. And
I
I
don't know
got
what
out
their
all
credit
of this-
department's in Duluth, Georgia.
Oh,
I don't know where exactly they're.
There's a lot of that in Duluth.
Oh, actually, they seem to be in Georgia. This,
Anyway,
I mean, it's
people
probably
up
the
to
company
house
that
for
owns the
dinner,
company
and I
that
made
used to
a very
be.
good dinner, and I set up the
I'm not sure
tables
it
with
might
all
not
my
have been New
buddies.
Herbies.
Well, that's what this is.
And the wife was astonished because she'd expected that she'd have to sit on the floor eating a plate of spaghetti on her knee, because single women in those days
Right.
were not supposed to even make real coffee for themselves. You know, you had to have a man around for it to be worthwhile to even brew coffee.
Well, let's go back to the good old days.
It's okay with me.
Well, I think.
Interesting stuff.
I know, I love these stories. I could listen to them forever. You know, other people's families are way more entertaining than your own. Because, I mean, everybody has these
Hey,
stories.
Betty, well, while we have you, give me the chronology of your time in Italy. Again, would I know that the sabbatical was in,
Well, the sabbatical
66 or
was
67.
67.
okay. And was
6
that a full
months.
year or
6 months.
6
But
months?
why
okay.
how did you get that sabbatical?
I was at Einstein, and I was due. You could take a half a year at full pay or a whole year at half pay. So I took a half a year.
Mhm.
Went to Naples.
And how did you get connected with the opportunity in Naples?
Oh, well, because some kids from Naples had been at Einstein.
Oh,
and
okay.
They set it up.
Yeah.
And then I went in. I think it was. Well, I came back in '97, and I'd been there 25 years, so that would be 72. This fella I knew for
Yeah,
years.
you went over in 1972.
I went over in '72.
For the
Mhm.
25
A fellow I'd known for years who worked for various. I think he worked for Sherry or Merck or somebody. Then he got this job in Italy, and he asked me if I wanted to come and work, and I hated my job at
That was Dow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
In
No,
Italy, it was
Dow owned
Le
the,
Petit.
the Italian
Le
company,
Petit.
but they were looking for a new kind of contraceptive pill, and he hadn't any idea how much time would go into finding one. So I had a 3-year contract.
Were you a researcher and
Well, my contract was as a consultant, because that meant they didn't have to pay pension and,
we know.
And I was, it wasn't only foreigners they were hiring as consultants. It was as many people as I could get away with. And I went over there, and Len turned out to be, as a boss, considerably different than he'd been from what he'd been as the one who wanted to tag along with us at all the congresses, if you know what I mean. And also, just about then, the Italians passed a law that they couldn't have any more full-time consultants. So this would have meant, I'd had a 3-year contract, this would have meant they'd have to put me on a regular one and start paying whatever they call that stuff. And they didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to punch a time clock. So,
Right.
but I couldn't come back. I'd given up my grants and my position, and I didn't want to come back anyway. And by that time, I knew my friend Judy, who was doing translating and editing, and she said there was more work than she could cope with. So she gave me some introductions, and I knew some endocrinologists. And the first year, if you couldn't eat it or put it in a tank in the car, I didn't spend it. But after that, I was off and running, and it was very good because I could raise my prices as with inflation, which my
Well, but how
salary-
could you be a consultant? Because they said not.
Huh?
No, she's not, but she was a translator.
So if you're a translator, that makes you.
No, I wasn't a translator for the company. I
No,
was
no, just in- she
doing
was an
research in the
independent
lab.
Oh, okay.
But there I was thrown out, so to speak. I still did translating, but
Okay.
as freelance.
Okay.
And, it worked out fine. I could work at home. And in all that time, there were really only three clients that I said, don't darken my doorstep.
And you stayed in that same position until you came back in '97? I mean, you still did that same thing?
Yeah.
The translator.
And even after I came
Well,
back.
I remember that you were still doing a little bit even when I very first met you, like 5 years ago. You were doing.
Yeah, but I stopped
something.
about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I was still, I gave my Dunwoody's fax number to the people I wanted to give it to. But it got to be more trouble than it was worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So finally at age 82, I think I said I'm going to do it at 81 or 82.
And when you went, were your parents traumatized? Oh, wait, they were already
Dad
dead.
was dead.
But your mom didn't know.
Mother was dead too.
Oh yeah,
She
yeah.
died in
That's
66.
right.
Yeah, by then, sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
She
have-
died in '68.
She was alive when I went to Naples,
Mm-hmm.
but I would never have gone over there and met if she'd still been alive.
You wouldn't have?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So-
that's great.
One other question. Go back to the Charleston
Okay.
Rubens for a minute. There's, in addition to the Isaac Dave Rubin store photographs, there are the Benjamin and Evelyn Rubin family papers.
No,
Would that be
none of us.
I don't recall that. I don't know nobody that I know.
Evelyn? Okay, so no, Benjamin Rubin,
No Benjamin, no
not
Evelyn.
part of our family. Okay.
No.
And well, what was I going to say
Well, no,
about
just
Rubin?
I think I mentioned not too long ago, this Marjorie Ritchie used to be here, wrote me that somebody in Rubin in Charleston had written a book or something or other, and she wondered, and I said, so that might be.
Maybe that's this other Rubin.
Oh, the
I don't know
other-
what his first name was. but-
Isn't it true though that all those names like Rubinachik or Rubinstein or whatever, they pretty much shorten them all to Rubin?
Not all, but.
I mean, yeah, that was the standard.
Yeah.
Because I have friends whose name is Hansen, and they were from Sweden, and their name was Hansen with a bunch of more consonants,
Yeah.
and everybody of
Yeah, well, very often, this was done to them coming
exactly.
through customs.
Yeah.
right, because it was just easier that way too.
Well, Grandpa always insisted his name was Fredland. And the customs people wrote it Fredland.
Oh,
And Mother's school papers are all Friedland, because she insisted on it, but the rest of them were all Fredland.
isn't that funny? Well, my
Yeah, I
mother's name
remember
is
the
that way.
Friedland part.
Huh?
Friedland?
I remember the Friedland.
Yeah,
saying it.
and Elizabeth Fredland, who's Danny's daughter, says that as far as she knows, the only Fredlands in the world
Mm-hmm.
were somehow, related to our bunch. I mean, not maybe the direct close ones, but
Right. Huh.
Oh,
Well, I'll have to. One of these days, I'll do some research on the.
if you need a family tree, Alan's done it already.
Yeah, I have that in Boca.
Of course, he's got my name wrong and my birth date wrong and a few
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah, that's what I thought. There were some.
Yeah. Some issues with Alan.
There were some
And
errors.
Nancy
in it.
Chase's son was doing one too.
Oh yeah.
And he sent me this thing and I referred him to Alan.
Yeah.
I'll have to look for that. I know where it is. In fact, I had my hands on it not too long ago.
I think we looked at it before we got married too.
Yeah.
So we've had it out in both in recent
Yeah.
history.
But the you told me their name a while ago, the doctor. What was their name?
Banno.
Yeah, they weren't related to
Dave
us.
Banno.
Okay.
They were just landsmen, came from the same
I
Mhm.
love that
same
word.
town.
Mhm.
Well, it's German as well as Yiddish.
Thanks.
And at one point, I don't know if it was Banoff or his wife, thought I'd be a good daughter-in-law. They had a son who was a
Oh,
doctor.
yeah, the physician.
And they wanted us to get together. Well, we didn't, and finally, he came to spend a year in Cleveland with his very sweet wife from Baltimore. And it was, and I kept saying they got to be out of their minds to think that I would be a good wife for a doctor in Charleston, South Carolina. I would antagonize every possible patient and whatnot.
Yes.
Can't you just see me?
Any place.
But especially in the South.
Oh yeah. Yes.
He was a sweet boy. I mean, they were a nice couple, the one that was really married. And,
Are you done? Betty's tired.
well, am I going to try to take a shower tonight, or shall I wait till tomorrow morning?
I'm going to wait till after they go.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I have to take a shower in the morning, but
Well, I took one last night. I should take one now, but I may not.
you don't have
Hey, let's go get Susie's.
If you ever decide to redo that bathroom, what I'd like you to do is to have the shower head put on a pole so I can bring it down so it hits me here and not here.
I know, that thing is crazy.
Betty,
You're
I
never
tell you
gonna do
something,
it.
that's very probable. And the other is the likelihood of your being here again to use that shower, I would say is not too,
Well, I guess I've been uninvited.
no, not worth going to all that expense. They'd have to tear out the whole damn thing.
They would. Oh, we
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
want
think
to.
so.
I love that shower. It's the coolest shower ever.
Yeah,
It's
but
got the
it hits
best.
me smack
Oh,
on the
me
top
too.
of my head.
Me
So
too.
you'd stand over in the corner.
Not
That's what I do.
really.
I stay
yeah,
in the
I do
corner.
as much as possible, but when I want to wash my feet or something, I have to bend.
Do you know what I do? I back up to the door of it and then do my feet that way because I can't. Otherwise, it drowns me. But I love it, and it's so funny when when you're not here and no one is here but us and Herschel. Herschel likes the water temperature to be at the P and tepid, and I like it hotter than that. So I always, after he's been in there to the P, I go to another continent and I get out and I put it religiously back on the P for
And I
tepid.
get in and I scald myself.
Yeah.
But I put it right back where you
It
have it
doesn't
every
make
time.
any difference. It still remembers.
It
that you were there.
remembers. That's so funny. But this time I haven't done that because I haven't been that. That's when the cold and the
I
cold weather.
have a difficulty in getting it not too hot.
I have now. I don't know. I'm sure you guys did this. I probably learned it from you. But I spend quality time with it running without me in it until I get in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because
you
that will
have to.
flat sear your butt hair off. You know what I mean? It's a powerful hot thing.
No,
I
I
don't
get
I'm
why
happy.
it takes so long to get warm.
It's just the hottest shower ever with the best
Oh.
water pressure. Wanna see
That's
It's a
how
good shower.
I like it.
5 by 3 by 3.
I like this.
Betty,
Just,
Betty called up the store once and she wanted
A
a
box.
box. And I said, well, about how big? She said, oh, about the size of the shower, 5 by 3 by 3. No, she said 5. And I said, that's about as big as the shower or something like that.
Yeah.
5 by 3 by 3.
I guess I wanted 2 by 1.5 by 1.5 or something.
Funny.
That's funny. But you slept in the front room, in that room,
Right.
and you had the room where we sleep.
Right.
And this bedroom was 2.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know that now. And I also like knowing how the front porch was and then the kitchen was added. How down here, how it used to be down here in the
We
front.
didn't have a front porch.
Well, you know what I mean. You had that.
Just the back
The
porch.
back porch, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. The back porch.
Oh, well,
Where the kitchen with the,
Incorporated that into the
Yes.
kitchen.
I like that.
the little eating
Uh-huh.
place was
I think that's very cool.
And
I
where
like
the powder room is was the pantry. That's where the
Right.
refrigerator was.
that. Right, because still all
And the door went in. The door came into there from the back porch where the sink is.
right.
And the refrigerator was there, and the
Right.
cupboard was. Well, no, there was a cupboard there. It's not there anymore.
I think that's neat. And really, other than that, there hasn't been a lot of change to the house, has there?
Well, they took the wall.
Oh, up there, yeah.
However,
we
they had
did-
a very expensive Pittsburgh architect.
The back part there
Who
was
built
not.
the world's least commodious closets,
Here,
Oh, well,
for the house.
including the one in my room, which has the so-called laundry chute, which takes up half of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had
No, no,
all
wait,
over
wait.
the house call buttons for the servants
Yeah.
and a box in the kitchen which gave the number so they know where this phantom
The
servant
number
would
1 was
know
the front door. The number
where
2 was
to-
the back
where
door.
to
The number
go.
3 was the upstairs bathroom.
Mhm.
Those were the only ones that were connected. Number 4 would have been in the dining room to bring the
to
maid in.
call for the maid to
So
come
they weren't
in.
in
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? I like the cedar
Dad
long
always
closet.
pushed the one in the bathroom so that whoever was on duty at the time would know that he was going to be coming down in a few minutes and could start his eggs or something.
Funny,
Well,
isn't
the best story of that
But
was
we
what
never
used to
did
go
the one-
on.
The one
Was
in
what
the,
used to
in
go
the,
on at Aggie's house in Providence. Because they had a couple,
yeah, I remember.
and the husband used to stand at the foot of the stairs and be listening for Louis and then signal his wife.
funny.
And we used to get the orange juice in a cut glass goblet on a cut glass plate with an obligatory vitamin pill.
The only one that I ever knew had one of those buttons on the floor was at the Loeb's house.
Oh.
She would always go trying to find that button, and and we'd finally yell, "Hey!" whatever the when I'd be out there for Sunday brunch.
That's cute.
But she always kept pushing, trying to find
Do you
that.
ever run into our ex, widow?
Not for a long, long time. I think she's still down there somewhere.
Oh, incidentally, you remember you took the pictures of the temple?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
one that we said they were friends of Phyllis's.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of Phyllis.
Yeah.
Of Art also, or maybe more
I'm
later.
I'm not sure whether they.
Yeah, I
did
was
art
gonna.
or did.
I actually was thinking of him the other day, and thought I might send an email to see.
Let's
how their
go down
project
and get
is.
her purse, please.
Okay.
Because otherwise, she's going to wake up in the middle of the night.
Oh no, she already had a antihistamine.
No, I don't want my purse to be down.
Okay, all right, I'm going. I'll go.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
You will be very sad if